Rain lashes against a wooden carriage, tearing through the pitch-black alleys of Paris. Outside, an angry mob screams for his head. Inside, John Law cowers on the floorboards. Just months ago, this convicted Scottish murderer was the financial king of France. Now, the state bank has collapsed, leaving 15 dead in the streets. Rumors whisper that Law's impossible escape from London's death row years earlier was actually orchestrated by a shadow syndicate, using him to deliberately bankrupt a rival empire. Was he a brilliant rogue, or a pawn in a global economic war? Hi, welcome to another episode of The Score. I am Alina Stone. September 1715. King Louis XIV is dead. He leaves behind a 5-year-old heir, a desperate regent named Philippe, and a mountain of toxic debt. 3 billion livres. France is completely bankrupt. Interest payments devour every tax coin collected. The regent tries debasing the coinage. He hunts corrupt tax collectors. Nothing works. France is on the edge of a cliff. Protecting the treasury is a strict financial security system, the gold standard, guarded by the elite Paris brothers and the traditionalist chancellor, Henry d'Aguesseau. To them, physical coin is the only true wealth. Then comes John Law, a brilliant, exiled Scottish gambler. In 1695, Law escaped London's Newgate prison after killing a man in a duel. Historians have long debated a shadowy rumor. Did British intelligence secretly facilitate Law's escape to serve as a financial time bomb against France? True or not, Law arrives in Paris with a plan to replace physical gold with paper credit. It is a financial heist on an empire-wide scale. To bypass the treasury's locks, Law must first crack the regent. Some court gossips whispered that Law used his hypnotic, hyper-calculating card table skills to mentally trap the desperate Duke of Orleans at high-stakes faro games. Law pitches a radical dream, a private bank that prints state paper. The regent is hooked. In May 1716, overriding Chancellor d'Aguesseau, he grants Law the bank's charter. To force the public to trust this paper, Law executes a masterstroke. He pegs his banknotes to a fixed rate of silver, making paper far more stable than the king's constantly debased coins. Then, the ultimate breach. In April 1717, the regent decrees that all taxes must be paid in Law's paper bills. Overnight, useless paper becomes law. By August, Law secures a trade monopoly over the massive Louisiana territory. The Paris brothers are furious. In the shadows of Paris, rumors swirled that these powerful rivals deployed hired saboteurs to trigger bank runs and empty Law's gold vaults. The trap is set. The stakes, absolute ruin. To pull off a heist of this scale, you need a ruthless crew. In May 1719, John Law executes a hostile takeover, consolidating all French foreign trade into one mega-monopoly, the Compagnie des Indes. Then the ultimate power play. On January 5, 1720, Law is appointed Controller General of Finances. In a single move, he commands the royal treasury, the state bank, the mint, and global commerce. With absolute power, his inside man is Philippe, the regent, who provides the ultimate executive muscle, using royal troops to silence any judge who dares to question the system. But a financial con of this magnitude needs masterclass marketing. Enter Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne, Sieur de Bienville. In 1718, Bienville founds a tiny, disease-ridden swamp outpost called New Orleans. On paper, Law's propaganda machine transforms this muddy swamp into a gilded metropolis of marble and gold. To sell the lie, Law buys thousands of iron shovels. In the autumn of 1719, he hires hundreds of vagrants, dresses them as miners, and marches them through the streets of Paris in what is a brilliant visual stunt. But because free citizens refuse to move to this Louisiana paradise, Law uses the state's clause. The regent authorizes the forced deportation of beggars, prostitutes, and prisoners. Between 1719 and 1720, Nearly 5,000 people are swept off the streets in chains and shipped to the swamps. For most, it is a death sentence, as up to 90% of these forced deportees die of disease, starvation, or shipwreck before ever seeing New Orleans. To pump this stock to the wealthy elite, Law needs an elite insider, and so he recruits Madame de Tensin, a brilliant former nun turned ruthless salon operator. Tensin uses her political connections and high-placed lovers to run a massive insider trading ring. Whispers in the salons of Paris suggested that Madame de Tensin was running a brilliant, double-crossing operation. Some suspect she used a secret network of courier spies to quietly short-sell Law's stock while publicly pumping it, converting her paper millions into physical gold and land just before the system crashed. To enforce these street sweeps, Law unleashes the bandoliers, armed mercenaries paid on a bounty-per-head basis. But these guards are brutally corrupt, and they begin kidnapping wealthy merchants, demanding heavy ransoms for their release. Some suspected that these corrupt guards were actually working with Law's political enemies, intentionally targeting wealthy citizens to spark a public rebellion against his machine. As panic spreads, the public demands to see the physical gold backing their paper. Law desperately displays stacks of coins in the bank vaults to restore calm. But trust is bleeding out. According to contemporary rumors, the bank's shimmering vaults were a carefully staged illusion, containing nothing but heavy lead bricks gilded with a thin layer of gold leaf. The clock is ticking, the bubble is stretched to its absolute limit, and the entire empire is about to implode. In early 1720, the heist enters its final, lethal phase. Inside the high-security printing rooms of the Banque Royale, the presses run day and night, pushing the system past its absolute mathematical limits. Law's vaults are supposed to be backed by physical wealth, but the security has been breached from within. Law has flooded France with over 2.6 billion livres in paper notes, but the entire kingdom only holds 700 million livres in physical gold and silver. He has printed 3 times more paper than actual specie exists, creating a financial time bomb waiting for a spark. And on the Rue de Quincampoix, the crowd trades in a state of absolute, frantic ecstasy, completely oblivious to the countdown. Then, the silent alarm is triggered when Louis Armand de Bourbon, the Prince of Conti, has a bitter falling out with Law and decides to crack the vault. He arrives at the Banque Royale with a massive stack of paper bills, demanding their immediate redemption in physical coin. He loads 3 royal carriages to the absolute brim with gold and silver and carts them away. It is a mortal blow that guts the physical reserves, shatters public confidence, and triggers the run on the bank. Law panics, and to stop the bleed, he turns France into a financial police state. On March 11, 1720, the regent issues a terrifying decree declaring that gold and silver are no longer legal tender for large payments, and forbidding citizens to own more than 500 livres in gold coin. Under penalty of total confiscation, Law unleashes a snitch network, promising informants half of any gold they locate. Neighbors turn on neighbors, servants betray their masters. To keep investors from discovering that Louisiana is actually a disease-ridden swamp, Law must completely control the flow of information. Whispers in the streets of Paris accused Law of operating a massive postal conspiracy, intercepting and burning real letters from colonists describing starvation, and replacing them with forged accounts of glorious gold discoveries. But you cannot hide a collapse of this scale as the streets turn bloody. On March 22, 1720, a young Belgian nobleman, Count Anton Joseph de Horn, and his accomplice lure a wealthy stockbroker named Lacroix into a tavern on the Rue de Quincampoix. They stab him to death, stealing his portfolio of Mississippi stock certificates. Some suspected that Count de Horn was not acting alone, but was the weapon of a desperate aristocratic syndicate executing wealthy commoners to steal back their lost fortunes. The regent refuses to spare his royal cousin, and on March 26, Count de Horn is publicly broken on the wheel. By order of the regent, the Rue de Quincampoix is boarded up and permanently shut down by royal guards. The end is swift, and on May 21, Law tries to defuse the bomb. He issues a fatal decree, systematically devaluing all paper notes and Mississippi stock by 50%. The public panics, and on May 27, the regent repeals the decree, but the damage is irreversible. The vaults are dry, the bank officially suspends all specie payments, and the paper currency is dead. According to legend, Law's agents spent their nights in the dark of the mint, melting down the actual gold crowns of French kings to secretly pay off threatening nobles who demanded their gold back. For the rest of France, there is nothing left as food prices skyrocket by 400%, meaning a single loaf of bread now costs a wheelbarrow of worthless paper. The heist is over, the country is bankrupted, and the genius who designed it is now a fugitive, running for his life. In December of 1720, Paris is a powder keg. John Law is officially stripped of his office, and outside his windows, angry lynch mobs scream for his head. The regent, Philippe, knows that if Law is captured and put on trial, the royal family's corruption will be laid bare. Law must be extracted, and enter the Duke of Bourbon, a fabulously wealthy royal debtor who cleared his massive family debts using Law's paper system. Out of gratitude, Bourbon secretly provides Law with his personal carriage and armed outriders for a silent exit. On the morning of December 18, under the cover of pitch-black darkness, Law and his son slip out of Paris, leaving his wife, Catherine, and their daughter behind to face the furious creditors. Disguised and traveling under a pseudonym, Law flees toward the northern border. Officially, he is bankrupt, carrying only a few thousand gold coins and a single diamond ring. Yet contemporary diaries whispered a glittering rumor. That sewn directly into the heavy wool lining of Law's winter cloak was a secret fortune in smuggled diamonds, taken directly from the royal French treasury. On December 21, the carriage reaches the border fortress of Valenciennes, but the gate is blocked. Standing in Law's path is Marc-Pierre d'Argenson, the regional intendant. D'Argenson's own father had been disgraced and ousted from power by Law, and recognizing the Scotsman immediately, d'Argenson halts the carriage, preparing to arrest Law for treasury fraud to avenge his family's honor. In this high-stakes standoff, some suspect the regent's royal guards carried a darker, silent directive. If Law was captured by provincial authorities, he was to be silenced forever, ensuring the crown's secrets died with him. But Law plays his final card, handing d'Argenson a letter of safe conduct and an official passport signed directly by the regent. D'Argenson faces a terrifying choice: defy his royal master and risk execution for treason, or let the man who bankrupted France escape, and in the end, he yields. On December 22, Law crosses the border to safety, never to return. 9 years later, on March 21, 1729, John Law dies of pneumonia in Venice, practically broke. But even in his final exile, the game never ended. As in the foggy channels of Venice, whispers grew that Law's card games were a front for a shadow advisory syndicate, selling the secrets of his fractional reserve system to rival European nations, teaching them how to build central banks without repeating his catastrophic mistakes. The gambler had lost his empire, but he had rewritten the rules of the world. The heist is over, and the cleanup begins. In 1721, the regent recalls Law's bitter rivals, the Paris brothers, to systematically incinerate the evidence. They establish the Visa Commission, processing over 500,000 claims of ruined citizens. They force a brutal 77% state-sanctioned default on the public, burning mountains of paper banknotes to ashes in the courtyards of the Palais Royal. The savings of the French middle class are utterly wiped out, and for over a century, the word bank becomes a dirty word in France. The crew scattered to the winds, and in December 1723, the regent, Philippe, suffers a sudden, fatal stroke at Versailles. John Law dies in modest exile in Venice in 1729, leaving his descendants practically nothing. But some players won. Madame de Tencin successfully kept her speculative millions, operating the most influential intellectual salon in Paris. Some suspect that Madame de Tencin laundered her massive fortune through secret Vatican vaults, keeping her gold completely out of reach of French audits. Yet the deepest mysteries of the heist remain unsolved, as whispers in Versailles claimed the regent bought Law's silence during his flight with a fortune in smuggled royal diamonds. To this day, Venetian legends persist of a secret, off-the-books safety deposit box containing Law's hidden wealth. But the ultimate consequence of the con was historical. Decades later, unable to borrow credit due to the lingering ghost of Law's collapse, the French crown raised taxes on a starving public, igniting the French Revolution of 1789. The gambler's legacy wasn't just a bankrupt treasury, it was the fall of a throne. So, who was the real villain? The mathematical gambler who saw a loophole, or the corrupt royals who let him print the world? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you loved this deep dive into history's greatest financial heist, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to The Score. And until next time, I'm Alina Stone.